Welcome to Heartbreak Chronicles. The door to the emergency room slammed open and the ambulance patients were quickly wheeled in. Dr. Nathan Wilson followed the stretcher at a quick pace, listening to the EMT's briefing and examining the patient's injuries. Male, 17 years old, multiple gunshot wounds to the abdomen and chest, decreased blood pressure, weak pulse. Nathan recognized the young face under his oxygen mask, another victim from the neighborhood where he once lived. 15 years ago, his father lost his life in that very neighborhood, and today these streets are still devouring life. Prepare the operating room now. His voice carried the authority gained from 10 years of experience in trauma surgery. As he sterilizes the surgery, Nathan's thoughts can't help but drift back to the argument he had with his wife, Sarah, this morning. She was upset that he had once again missed dinner with her important client. He tried to explain the plight of the understaffed trauma unit, but she just rolled her eyes, her heels making a crisp sound on the kitchen tiles, and turned away. Dr. Wilson, or 3 is ready. The nurse's voice brought him back to reality. For the next 4 hours, Nathan's world is nothing but a battlefield on an operating table. His hand removed the bullet with precise movements and repaired the damaged tissue. Every stitch is a promise to the teenager's family. Every careful gesture a silent struggle against the violence that had shaped his life. "Beautiful surgery, Dr. Wilson," his assistant surgeon commented as they closed the last stitch. The third bullet was tricky to place. Nathan nodded, still focused on the final stitches. "Let me know when he's in the recovery room. I want to talk to his family personally." In the surgical lounge, Nathan checks his cell phone. 3 missed calls from Sarah and 1 from the hospital's new administrator, Michael Reed, who seems determined to make Nathan's life difficult. He called Sarah back first. "Where the hell have you been?" Her voice took on that sharp tone that had only recently appeared. "James has been waiting to discuss the Lakeshore property. 4 hours of emergency surgery, Sarah. Someone's son almost died. Someone's $1 million commission almost died too. James Thompson doesn't like to wait." Nathan rubbed his temples. James Thompson seems to be waiting around a lot lately. The silence on the other end of the line lasted a beat too long. "What does that mean?" "Nothing. I'm tired. Be home in an hour." Nathan ended the call and leaned back in his chair, thinking back to when he and Sarah first met. He was a resident at the time and practically lived in the hospital. She walked into the cafeteria one day, folder in hand, looking for medical students interested in luxury apartments. "You know residents can't afford this," he said, looking at the glossy brochures. "Maybe," she smiled, her green eyes twinkling. "But you're not a regular resident. Are you, Dr. Wilson?" She's right. Nathan was never ordinary. Growing up in the South Side, he watched his father, James Wilson, leave the house every day in his straight police uniform. "We serve others, son," his father used to say. "And that's what makes us who we are." When his father died that day, 12-year-old Nathan stood in the emergency room and watched helplessly as doctors tried to save his life. That moment defined his life's path. His pager rang, interrupting the memories. Michael Reed asked to see him immediately. Nathan walks toward the manager's office, noting the expensive new furniture that has appeared since Reed took over. "Dr. Wilson," Reed gestured for him to sit down with a smile that didn't match his calculating eyes. "Let's talk about the trauma unit's budget. Let's talk about why you're cutting resources for essential services." Reed's smile tightened. "Northwestern Memorial Hospital is a business, Dr. Wilson. Your department is losing too much money on uninsured patients." "Those patients are our community," Nathan countered. "And many have no choice but to come here for emergency care." "Ah yes, your old neighborhood." Reed's tone made that sound like a flaw. "As noble as that is, we need to prioritize profitable services. Perhaps if you were more concerned with private practice." "My father was a cop in that neighborhood," Nathan interrupted, "and he died serving that community. I'm not going to abandon it." Reed's expression turned cold and hard. "Your father's choice is not hospital policy, Dr. Wilson. I want to see a detailed cost-cutting plan by the end of the week." Nathan left Reed's office feeling his shoulders tighten. The drive home gave him time to calm down, but as he pulled into his driveway, he noticed an unfamiliar Ferrari parked across the street. Inside the house, Sarah is on the phone in the kitchen while adding something to the calendar. She was wearing a new dress that Nathan hadn't seen before, and her makeup was perfect despite the late hour. "James said the zoning board has basically agreed," she said. And yes, I'll handle the paperwork myself tomorrow morning at 7. It's perfect. She ended the call and turned to Nathan. You look terrible. Thanks. New dress. The client dinner, remember? The one you said you couldn't attend. Nathan opened the refrigerator more to avoid her gaze than because he was hungry. By the way, how's James Thompson's real estate empire going? He's a great client, Sarah said, careful to keep her tone neutral, and his recommendation could double my business next year. Lately, it seems like all your clients are James Thompson. Sarah gathered up the papers on the counter. I'm tired, Nathan. I don't want to fight about my job when you're practically living in that hospital. That hospital saves lives. And I'm trying to build a career. She stopped at the kitchen door. Emma asked if you could help her with her science homework tomorrow. I have a section meeting, but I'll try to be back early. Sarah shrugged. I'll tell her not to wait for you. Nathan watched her leave, remembering their first year of marriage, when they used to stay up late planning for the future and envisioning the family they were going to start. Now their conversations are like surgical procedures, quick, clinical, and focused on the immediate problem rather than the cure. He walked up the stairs to Emma's room and found her asleep. Science textbooks are spread out on the table with sticky notes all over the solar system chapter. Nathan tucked her in and kissed her forehead, breathing in the familiar scent of her strawberry shampoo. Back in the hallway, he noticed that the door to Sarah's office was half open. A stack of real estate documents lay on her desk, and James Thompson's name stood out on several folders. Next to it was a receipt from some fancy restaurant, dated 3 days ago, the day Sarah said she was looking at houses in the suburbs. Nathan closed the door gently, his surgeon's instincts telling him something was wrong, like a patient showing subtle symptoms of a deeper problem. His marriage is revealing warning signs he can no longer ignore. In the bedroom, he finds Sarah's cell phone vibrating with an incoming call from James T. and an unread text message reading "Can't wait to." Nathan looks away before he sees more. He had often made tough decisions in times of crisis throughout his career, but now, faced with the first real crisis in his personal life, he felt unusually caught off guard. He stayed awake long after Sarah was in bed, listening to her, even breathing and pondering when they became strangers sharing a room. Tomorrow there will be more surgeries, more budget meetings, more lives, depending on his steady hands and clear mind. But tonight, in the darkness of his bedroom, the trauma surgeon who never loses his cool, the man who came out of the South Side through sheer determination, felt the first tremors as his world began to shake. At dawn, Nathan stood on the roof of the hospital, watching the sun rise over the city horizon. Last night's discovery sliced through the surface of his life like a scalpel, revealing the rotten truth beneath. He pulled out his phone, downloaded a tracking app, and entered Sarah's cell phone information. As a surgeon, he knows that sometimes you have to cut to heal. A text message from Emma interrupted his thoughts. Dad, can you help me with my science homework today? Nathan stared at the screen as his resolve strengthened. Whatever happens next, he must protect Emma from harm. Dr. Wilson? An unfamiliar voice sounded behind him. He turned to see a woman in a business suit with a leather folder in her hand. I'm Linda Carter, James Thompson's assistant. Nathan's first impulse was to get rid of her, but his instincts told him to wait. What can I do for Mr. Thompson's assistant? Actually, it's what I can do for you. Linda opened the folder. I've noticed some worrisome patterns in James's accounts, especially the real estate transactions involving your wife. Why are you telling me this? Because I have a conscience, and because James Thompson is not what he presents himself to be. She placed a document in front of Nathan. This is a record of transfers between Thompson's account and gambling-related shell companies. Your wife's signature appears on several related real estate transactions. Nathan studied the documents, his medical training helping him process complex information under pressure. These dates coincide with Sarah's late-night client meetings. There's more. Linda lowered her voice. Thompson's agency doesn't just represent athletes. It was at this point that a knock on the door interrupted them. Nathan's resident poked his head in. Dr. Wilson, your trauma patient from last month, Tony Martinez, wants to see you, says it's urgent. Nathan remembers Martinez, a simple car accident case, but the patient was extraordinarily grateful. He looked to Linda. We'll continue later. Linda put away the file. I'll be in touch. Be careful. Dr. Wilson. Thompson's network is wider than you think. Nathan found Tony Martinez in the private waiting area. The older man stood up when he saw Nathan and held out his hand. Thank you for seeing me, doctor. How's the recovery going? Thanks to you, perfect. Martinez looked around before continuing. I heard you might need help. I don't understand. Word always gets around. Martinez lowered his voice. The name James Thompson comes up a lot, and it's not always good. Martinez handed Nathan a business card. My nephew Kevin, he's doing data analysis. Lost all his savings in a Thompson program a few years ago. Maybe talking to him will help. Nathan studied the card. Why are you helping me? You saved my life. Martinez walked toward the door. In our case, that means something. Before he left, he turned and added, one more thing, that administrator Reed. He plays high-stakes poker with Thompson. Might explain a few things. After Martinez left, Nathan was in his office digesting the information he had gained. His cell phone vibrated, a text message from James Thompson. Meet Sarah at the Cardinal Club tonight to discuss new projects. Maybe you should focus more on the hospital than your wife's career. The provocation made Nathan clench his fists, but he quickly calmed down. As a surgeon, he knows the value of precision and patience. He made 3 calls. The first to his attorney. I need all records on file. Every text message, every hotel bill, every missed parent-teacher conference. The second gave the number Martinez provided. Mr. Martinez, about your nephew. The third to Linda Carter. Tell me all the details about Thompson's operation. Each call lasted no more than 5 minutes, and each initiated a different part of his program. It's as precise as every surgery he plans. That night, Nathan was at home reviewing a file from Kevin Martinez. Sarah's not home yet, and her cell phone location shows she's still at the Cardinal Club. He opened his laptop and found a new email. Dr. Wilson, this is Sophia Bennett, undercover FBI agent. I'm not actually Thompson's assistant. We've been conducting an investigation into his money laundering. Need to talk privately. The next day, Nathan meets Sophia in a hidden room in the public library. Thompson's agency wasn't just laundering money, she said, displaying photographs. They were running a sophisticated betting scheme through legitimate sports contracts. How deep is it involved? So deep that several professional athletes have been implicated, and some have been forced to play fake games. Sophia shows transaction records, but we need hard evidence to link Thompson to the gambling operation. Regarding Sarah's involvement, she signed documents without understanding the implications. Technically a crime, but we can assume she was manipulated. Nathan nodded, thinking of Emma. I need Thompson's gambling records. Why? Because Kevin Martinez is about to make Thompson an offer he can't refuse. The elegance of the program lies in its simplicity. Using information provided by Kevin, Nathan begins to quietly acquire Thompson's gambling debts through shell companies. Each purchase is carefully orchestrated to create a pattern that appeals to Thompson's predatory instincts. During a meeting at Murphy's gym, Kevin explained, look at the numbers. Thompson thinks he's tracking the money flow, but in reality, he's following the trajectory we've set up. Kevin's uncle Tony examines the financial report. The land deal is the key. Let him think he's found a gold mine. Nathan agrees that the lure of this ostensibly secretive real estate development, a massive sports center that would turn abandoned land into gold, is too much for Thompson. The land belonged to Tony's company and was transferred through numerous shell companies, making it difficult for even the FBI team to track ownership. Sarah would be the perfect conduit, Nathan explains, and Thompson trusts her judgment in real estate. What about investment capital? Kevin asked. It would go straight into accounts we controlled. By the time Thompson realized it, his own money laundering network had already cleaned the trap for us. The program is beginning to move forward gradually. Sophia leaks development information through carefully selected channels. Thompson's network of informants began to catch rumors of secret zoning changes, political connections, and multi-billion-dollar construction plans. Nathan watched Thompson take the bait as the sports agent began to show up at their house more frequently, ostensibly to discuss day-to-day real estate matters with Sarah. Nathan installed cameras in his home office to record each meeting. He heard Thompson say, "This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, Sarah. Believe me, I've verified it. Once the development plans go public, the value of this land will multiply tenfold." Every aspect of the program runs with precision, like a sophisticated operating room unit. Nathan knew that the real test was about to begin. The first sign of James Thompson's crumbling empire appeared on a Tuesday morning. He was sitting in his office trying to transfer funds between accounts when his computer screen suddenly displayed an exception message: account access restricted pending IRS audit. Linda, he slammed the intercom. Contact our accountant immediately. Linda's response was carefully controlled. I'm sorry, Mr. Thompson, but Mr. Parker's office says he's in a meeting with IRS investigators and won't be available all day. Thompson's face turned pale as he tried to access another account, then the next, encountering the same blockade with each attempt. He grabbed the phone and dialed his bank's VIP line. Mr. Thompson, the bank manager's voice couldn't hide his anxiety. We've been trying to reach you. There has been some situation with your account. Across town, Nathan receives an update from Kevin. He's trying to tap into his emergency fund, but those mysterious creditors, the ones who acquired his gambling debts, are calling in all the money they owe at the same time. How did he react? Like a man watching a safety net burn. He's hit 6 different banks in the last hour. Nathan looked at his watch. As expected, how's Reed doing? Lost another $100,000 at the poker table last night, and the casino wants it paid by Friday. Pressure began to build up gradually. Thompson's clients began receiving anonymous emails detailing suspicious aspects of their endorsement contracts. Calls poured into his office like a tidal wave of athletes and their lawyers demanding explanations. Linda played her role perfectly, acting increasingly flustered. Mr. Thompson, the SEC left another message that 3 other clients terminated their contracts. Thompson stormed out of the office, his suit wrinkled from hours of stress. Contact Sarah immediately. But Sarah has her own troubles. When she went to the county office to file a land development permit, she met Kevin's wife behind the counter. I'm sorry, Mrs. Wilson, Mrs. Martinez said as she scrutinized the documents. But the signatures don't match our records, and there are several irregularities in the title documents. Sarah's hands shook as she called Thompson. Something's wrong. The license is being questioned, and they're talking about falsifying the investigation. Calm down, Thompson snapped. I'm on it as planned. But the program is falling apart. Thompson's emergency meeting with Michael Reed in the hospital parking lot reveals the latter's desperation. I can't help you, Reed whispered as he looked around nervously. The board has received anonymous evidence about my gambling debts. They're launching an ethics investigation. You owe me. Thompson grabbed Reed's arm. You own my IOUs. Reed broke away. Not anymore. Someone else bought the whole thing, and the new debtor demands immediate repayment. Thompson's next move was expected. He breaks into Nathan's office at the hospital and tries to maintain his usual confidence, even though the disheveled appearance of his clothes betrays him. We need to talk, Wilson. Nathan looked up calmly. Talk about what, Mr. Thompson? Don't pretend. I know you're behind all this. Audits, license issues, customer leaks. A very serious accusation. Any proof? Thompson leaned in close to Nathan's desk. I have evidence about your trauma center. Do cases of unreported gunshot wounds to the police sound familiar? Nathan's expression rippled. Interesting. You should share that with the FBI agent who's been spying on you for months. Thompson's face instantly lost its blood. What agent? The agent who posed as your assistant, the one who documented your money laundering. By the way, how's the IRS audit coming along? Thompson's composure finally crumbles. You think you're so smart? You don't know what I can do to you. In fact, I know exactly what you can do. Just like I knew you'd use Sarah to gain access to my finances, knew you'd convince her to forge documents, and knew you'd try to steal everything and then run away. You can't prove anything. Nathan opens his laptop and turns to Thompson to show video footage from his home office. I can prove everything. Thompson straightened his tie. Those patients you treated privately, that evidence if made public. You mean those federal witnesses under FBI protection? Those patients who were authorized to be treated by the Department of Justice. Nathan stood up. In our line of work, fact-checking is important, Mr. Thompson. When Thompson leaves, Nathan gets a text from Sarah. We need to talk. I have emails proving your relationship with Tony Martinez, the land deal, the gambling operation, everything. Nathan arranged to meet at the house. He found Sarah in the kitchen clutching a manila envelope. It's over, Nathan. I have proof of your criminal activity. Nathan places her cell phone on the counter and plays the recording of her call from Disneyland. Her laughter echoed through the kitchen, followed by the sound of Emma crying for her mom. "Go on," he said calmly. "Let's see whose story the judge will believe." Sarah's facade crumbled. "How long have you been planning this?" "From the day you abandoned our daughter for a dinner date. Everything after that, the suggested counseling, the hinted retirement, the passive acceptance of your business meeting with Thompson, was all part of the plan. You used me. No, Sarah, you used yourself. Your greed, your ambition, your willingness to sacrifice Emma for a fresh start. I'm just making sure every choice leaves a record." Sarah slumped in her chair. "What happens next?" "Now, you're going to experience everything Emma felt at Disneyland. Lost, abandoned, watching everything you thought you could count on disappear." Nathan walks towards the door. "Check your email. The FBI has some questions about those real estate deals you set up for Thompson." In the car, Nathan calls Sophia to debrief. "Thompson's empire is crumbling," the FBI agent said with satisfaction in his voice. "His clients are fleeing, accounts are frozen, and our investigation is public." Reed's resignation letter is on the hospital board's desk, and Sarah faces serious charges unless she cooperates. "Where's the evidence?" "Ironclad evidence. Video footage, financial records, witness statements. They're finished, Nathan, all of them." Nathan drives over to Emma's maternal grandparents' house, where his daughter is waiting to regale him with stories about school. As he listened to her jabber, his cell phone kept vibrating, displaying news of Thompson's empire, Sarah's reputation, and Reed's career crumbling. The trap not only worked, it exceeded expectations. Each target played their part perfectly, never realizing they were enacting a script designed by Nathan. Their own behavior, their own choices, triggered the trap that would destroy them. Tony Martinez's words during their first meeting echoed in Nathan's mind. "Justice sometimes needs a little help. The key is to make sure they get what they deserve." Nathan sat on the porch of Emma's grandparents' house and watched the sun set. Tony Martinez's words still echoed in his head, but another voice began to surface as well. Something his father used to say: "Punishment isn't the end of the road, son. It's the opportunity for a new beginning." His cell phone vibrated with a message from Sophia. "Thompson's been arrested. He wants to negotiate." This was immediately followed by an email from Sarah's attorney confirming that she would cooperate with the prosecution. Reed's letter of resignation is on the desk of the chair of the hospital board. Everything was going according to plan, but Nathan felt a kind of exhaustion he often feels after surgery, the kind he gets when lives are saved but the repairs have just begun. An unfamiliar car pulls up to the curb and James Thompson's mother, Elizabeth, gets out of the car. This retired teacher's elegant demeanor remains intact even in moments like these. "Dr. Wilson, can I talk to you?" Nathan led her to the study. Elizabeth sat carefully on the edge of her chair, clutching her handbag. "I saw the story about James on the news," she spoke, her voice steady. "I guess I should have seen this coming." "Why do you say that?" "Because it's not the first time." She pulled her bank statement out of her bag. 3 years ago, James convinced me to invest in one of his schemes, and I lost all my pension. Had to return to teaching at 70. Nathan examined the statement and saw how a sum of money had been transferred and disappeared. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I know you're behind all of this, and I want to thank you." Elizabeth's voice firms up. "My son needs to face the consequences. He's hurt too many people." Nathan studied the teacher who had raised James on her own, and underneath her haggard face, he saw the kind of tenacity his own father had often mentioned. "Are you interested in getting your pension back?" "How?" "The FBI is seizing Thompson's assets. With your documents, we can make sure you're prioritized for restitution." Tears welled up in Elizabeth's eyes. "Why are you helping me?" "Because you shouldn't be responsible for your son's choices." Nathan made a mental note to have Kevin expedite her claim process. After Elizabeth leaves, Nathan receives an urgent call from Sophia. "Thompson is trying to use the trauma center records as leverage, claiming he has proof that you failed to report the shooting." "Let him try," Nathan said calmly. "Those patients are federal witnesses under your protection. He's just digging himself a deeper hole." There's more. Sarah's desperate. She's contacting other hospitals and trying to spread rumors about your work ethic. Nathan gave a small smile. "How did it work out?" "Not so good. Apparently most of the surgeons in Chicago were either trained by you or have family members who are your patients. You have an impeccable reputation in the medical community." A knock on the door interrupted their conversation. Tony Martinez stood in the doorway. "Got a minute, Doc?" Nathan ended the call. Martinez pulls out a cigar. "Remember last week when Reed lost big at that poker game? Turns out he was trying to win money for his son's surgery." "What son?" "Bastard. Boy needs an appendectomy." Martinez grinned. "Guess who's the surgeon on duty?" Nathan remembers the surgery, the routine surgery, the scared child, the mother who wouldn't look into her eyes. Reed never mentioned it was his son. "He won't talk." Martinez exhaled a smoke ring. "The boy's mother used to work at the hospital. Reed kept it a secret, paying child support through a shell company." "Does Thompson know about this?" "Don't know yet. But when he finds out his main witness has an illegitimate child whose life you saved." Martinez looked meaningfully at Nathan. Nathan's cell phone lit up again with another text from Sarah. "Meet me at home at 7 p.m. We should end this." He arrives home to find Sarah in the kitchen with a folder in front of her. "I have proof, Nathan. Your dealings with Martinez, the gambling operation, the land deal, everything." Nathan put down his cell phone and played the recording of the call from Disneyland. Sarah's laughter and Emma's cries echoed through the kitchen. "Go on," he said calmly, "and see whose story the judge will believe." Sarah's facade crumbled. "How long have you been planning all this?" "From the moment you abandoned our daughter for a date. Everything after that, suggesting counseling, hinting at retirement, acquiescing to your business meetings with Thompson, was part of the plan." "You used me." "No, Sarah, you used yourself." Nathan picked up his cell phone. "The FBI will be contacting you about a plea deal. For Emma's sake, I suggest you take it." Just then, Elizabeth Thompson's voice rang in Nathan's head. "Everyone deserves a chance to change, even those who hurt us." He remembered a young drug dealer his father had dealt with, who had later enrolled in a technical school with his father's help. "Sometimes people need to hit bottom before they can start climbing," his father had said. Nathan's phone vibrated again, a message from Emma. "Dad, Julia taught me to paint with watercolors. Can I show you after dinner?" He looked at the message and pondered the possibilities beyond revenge. He contacted Sophia. "I have an idea about Thompson's plea deal." The next day, Nathan meets Tony Martinez at Murphy's gym to discuss Thompson's future. "Elizabeth went to see that rehabilitation program in Nevada," Martinez said, "and it looked legit, and they're very effective at helping white-collar criminals reclaim their humanity. Kevin said we could arrange for Thompson's compensation to fund the program." Martinez exhaled a smoke ring. "Are you going soft, Doc?" "No," Nathan pondered Emma's watercolor. "Just wondering what my father would say. He always believed in the possibility of reformation." Nathan's cell phone lit up again, this time with a message from Elizabeth. "Thank you for giving my son a chance to find himself again. The price of atonement has been paid, and now begins the harder part, repairing the wounds that mere vengeance cannot heal." 10 years later, Nathan Wilson stood at the podium in the main conference hall at Northwestern Memorial Hospital in front of a group of young surgical residents. At the age of 52, a little silver was showing at his temples, but his hands were still as steady as ever. "Medicine is not just about technique," he told the young doctors. "It's about understanding that healing comes in many forms. Sometimes the deepest wounds aren't the ones we see in the operating room." In the audience, 17-year-old Emma sat between Julia and Tony Martinez, recording her father's speech on her cell phone. She had grown into an elegant young woman, inheriting her mother's green eyes but possessing her father's calm demeanor. Her art therapy program at the James Wilson Foundation has helped hundreds of children, and next fall she plans to pursue a degree in psychology at Northwestern University. After the ceremony, Nathan met with his section chairs. Under his leadership, the trauma center has evolved into a national model for community-based healthcare. Those programs he once fought to protect are now the hospital's brightest jewels, attracting a steady stream of funding and accolades. Report from the Wilson Foundation, Dr. Wilson. His assistant handed over a thick folder. The board meeting is at 2 in the afternoon. The James Wilson Foundation has long since moved beyond its initial support of children from broken homes to a national network of community centers offering a full range of services from counseling to education to medical care. Originally founded in the South End, the center now occupies an entire renovated city block. Julia joined the board of directors meeting, and her professional experience as a prosecutor provides invaluable assistance to the foundation's legal aid program. Their marriage has grown stronger over the years, and their quest for justice continues in different but complementary ways. James Thompson's latest report is here. Julia mentioned on the way to the meeting, and the Nevada program wants to replicate his youth sports rehabilitation model nationally. Thompson's shift surprised many. After serving a reduced sentence, he stayed in the rehabilitation program and eventually became the program director. His work with troubled athletes is recognized for preventing young players from falling into the traps he once set. Mom's coming next week, Emma said at dinner in their new lakeside home, and she wants to see my art therapy display at the foundation. Sarah's road to redemption is long and steady. After remarrying in Seattle, she focused her life on helping other parents avoid the mistakes she had made. Supervised visits with Emma gradually develop into a cautious but healing relationship, and they begin to be able to discuss the past openly. Elizabeth called, Julia added. James' youth program was honored by the Department of Justice, and she wanted to let us know. Elizabeth Thompson became an unexpected ally in the work of the foundation. Her dual experience as a teacher and James' mother provides valuable insight into helping troubled teens. Her relationship with James is repaired as he strives to become the son she always believed he could be. Tony Martinez arrived already needing crutches, but still awesome. Kevin says hello from New York. His youth financial literacy program has expanded to 20 schools. Kevin Martinez has parlayed his experience in identifying Thompson's program into a mission to teach young people to recognize and avoid financial predators. His program, which is supported by foundations, has prevented countless families from becoming victims of fraud. Later in the evening, Nathan finds Emma in his home office, gazing at a painting of a lighthouse she did years ago. I've been thinking about Disneyland, she said softly, and how that day could have destroyed us all. But instead you turned it into something that helped others. She touched the painting lightly. I understand now why you chose healing over destruction. Nathan thought about the changes that this decade has brought. Michael Reed retired from hospital management, but not before establishing a significant fund dedicated to uninsured patients. His former illegitimate son now works for a foundation that helps other children from broken homes. Sophia Bennett rose through the ranks at the FBI, specializing in preventing the type of financial crimes she had helped expose. She regularly works with foundations to teach parents and children to recognize the signs of manipulation and fraud. The foundation's annual dinner weaves together many threads. Sarah attended with her new husband, a Seattle-based child psychologist who helped her develop programs for parents facing addiction and impulse control issues. She watched proudly as Emma displayed her art therapy research. James Thompson participated via video link, working with a new group of troubled athletes in Nevada. His speeches about breaking the cycle of exploitation have earned the respect of the communities he once preyed upon. Elizabeth sat in the front row and watched with tears in her eyes as her son taught others to avoid his past mistakes. Your revenge succeeded beyond anyone's expectations, Tony commented at the dinner, but not in the way most people measure success. Nathan watches as Emma introduces Sarah to her art therapy student, and their shared passion for helping others bridges years of hurt. The best revenge is to let them live to see the good that comes from their mistakes. The Foundation's newest program, announced that evening, focuses on preventing financial exploitation of young athletes and their families. Thompson's insights were combined with Kevin's expertise and Sophia's law enforcement experience to create a comprehensive protection program. Next month, we're going to expand our medical outreach program, Nathan told the gathering crowd, and set up mobile clinics in the neighborhoods my father used to patrol to make sure that no child has to watch helplessly as a parent suffers because they can't get care. Julia clasped his hand as he spoke, remembering how they had first met during the investigation. Their marriage produced 2 children, James and Helen, who grew up understanding that justice and healing are 2 sides of the same coin. After dinner, Nathan visits his father's grave. The police memorial garden has become even more beautiful over the years, lovingly tended by community members who have benefited from the Foundation's programs. You're right, Dad, he said softly. Sometimes justice needs help finding its way home. But home isn't where we start. It's what we build from the rubble. The next day brought new challenges. A young trauma surgeon seeks Nathan's advice on patients who can't pay their medical bills. A foundation counselor needed guidance to help a child experiencing parental abandonment. Thompson asked for support in expanding his program to include younger at-risk athletes. Emma stops by his office to update her on the progress of her application for the psychology program. "I've been reading your old surgical journals," she said, "about how to cut precisely in order to heal. That principle applies to emotional trauma, too. Healing is not just about removing the damaged parts," Nathan replies. "It's about strengthening the remaining parts." Sarah's weekly video calls with Emma demonstrate this truth. Mother and daughter discuss Emma's college plans, talking with hard-won wisdom rather than bitterness. Sarah has learned to listen rather than argue, to be supportive rather than controlling. That's the end of today's story. For more captivating tales, hit subscribe and never miss an episode.